Hey, and welcome back to Kingdom 360 with your host, the Grand Inquisitor Zane Venturi. Now, today's topic we're going to be talking about is, who am I? You might have sat down and questioned who you are as a person and what you're here for. So we're going to just cover the basic topic of how do you find out who you are. So in life, you'll be always presented by different scenarios and situations that are going to play out in your life. And the most important thing is how you determine who you are is how you react to any given situation that occurs in your life. So it's the big R. Your reaction defines or will define who you are as a person. So so a certain situation may happen to me and may happen to you, the same situation. How you react or how I react defines who we are. That's it. Reaction is itself the definition of who you are. And so what I'll go through a few things with you. So in life, it's the ultimate head trick basically, and it's going to throw you from one end to the extreme to the other. And no matter what happens in life, you're going to get hit. You're going to get dealt a blow, a knockout blow. It could be anything, or it could have already happened. So a lot of people that I know who've gone through traumatic times in their life of abuse and so forth, either from their parents or through people who were supposed to be their loved ones, or they've been victims of sexual abuse or so forth. And I've said to them that basically how you react to that scenario will define you as a person. Now the thing is, we're all going to get hit, we're all going to experience pain. And again, it's your reaction to how you handle that pain that will determine the outcome of your life. Winners make things happen and losers make excuses, and that's the bottom line. Now, even though you're dealt a bad card, something that has happened in your life, if you decide to take action from there and build yourself to a stronger person, you're making things happen. If you decide to get knocked out by life, cold on the floor, if you decide to lay down, stay the victim, then that is who you are. You've defined who you are as a person. You said to yourself, I'm going to be the victim. And that's fine if that's what you want to do, but it comes with consequences being a victim. And excuses are like arseholes. Everyone's got one, and it stinks. It's rancid. Making excuses for yourself, it stinks. Love's gonna hit you. It's gonna hit you. Bottom line, But it's the people who've got a good reaction, a good positive reaction to what happens, they're the ones that are going to succeed. And I've got this term called what I call the Stephen Hawking effect. And if you don't know who Stephen Hawking is, wherever you've been all your life, please Google him. He's someone who suffers from motor neuron disease. And basically, he's paralyzed from the neck down, right? He can't even talk. He can't, all due respect to him, he's not a person who can wipe his own arse. He can't even talk because he needs a machine to do that. But what defines him as a person is how he reacted to this. How he reacted to that. He found his purpose in life with continuing his works on physics and so forth. He's a physicist. And, all praise and due to him that he, still carries on with his life and does what he does. Like I said, he's got every excuse in the world. He's just said, no, you know what? I'm not going to let that one thing, that disease that I've got, affect my purpose in life. It's an amazing thing, a very empowering thing. And, I know that some of you people that are watching this video may have been victims of abuse, both psychological and physical. And you've got to say to yourself, look, you've been dealt a bad hand, you know. No, it's not fair, but it's not fair on you not to take a positive action. And you've got to find the positivity. You've got to be sharp enough and look deep enough to find that positive within you to gain a good reaction out of this. I mean, it's great. I mean, from one level, it's great, you know, having an excuse. We don't have the initiative to try. We can always, you know, that's my get out of jail card. I've got an excuse. X, Y, and Z happened to me. But in the end of the day, you have let that one thing define the most amazing thing that you've been given, life. You've actually handed the control over to the action that took place. You know, and you're going to let that define you. I think that, no. You've got to stand up and say to yourself, no, I'm not going to let that thing define me. I will define it. I will become bigger than it. So I'm going to go through a couple of phases of certain things that happen to people. So if something really horrible, terrible, you've been a victim of psychological or physical abuse, there are a couple of things that can happen to you. Most people either play the victim card, or they become the intermediate. The intermediate is somebody who accepts what's going on but still carries on with their life, but carries that heavy pain within them. The person who plays the victim will always play the victim card and want sorrow and people to feel sorry for them. We have the narcissist here. That is somebody who's had so much either physical or psychological abuse that they've crumbled within themselves and they've become a toxic person. I mean, the thing is, you can still be a toxic person without being a narcissist, but certain events in your life have made you into a toxic person. And then we have something called the supernova. Now, this is a term that was garnered by a guy called H.G. Sorry, his name is actually H.G. Tudor. But because I do this all ad lib, I kind of sometimes forget things. So we'll go back again. And he's quite a well-known person on the subject of narcissism. And the whole thing about what the supernova is that it's someone who has overcome all the adversities. Life has hit them over and over and again, and they've decided to say, no, I am going to become a stronger person. No matter how hard that you hit me, every time you hit me, I'll become double, triple, or 4 times. They're resilient. They're almost stubborn to all the negativity. The harder they get hit, the bigger person they become. You know, full of charisma, full of life. It's like, yeah, I'm going to become bigger than the punch that hits me. That's a very rare situation when you become a supernova, but it is an amazing, empowering thing. If you can reach that level, if you say to yourself, you know what, I don't care how hard I'm going to get here, I'm going to become a supernova. And I guess Stephen Hawking is a classic example of someone who's been knocked down by life and has become this amazing physicist out of it. I mean, he was an amazing physicist before, but he didn't let it, his motor neuron disease, hold him back. He just carried on going. And also, another thing that I wanted to cover is that self-love. No matter what happens to you, you must have a love for yourself. Now, I'm going to give you an example of this in a second. So imagine that your heart is like a bank. And say, for example, you've got $1 million in there, right? And this heart represents the person you may love or care about dearly. Now, that you can invest in that person, but you don't invest the whole 1 million. You can give that person 50, 100 grand, even maybe 200 grand if you're feeling generous. But you don't give them the whole amount. Reason being, if anything happens to that person and they go, you were relying on that person for your happiness. You invested all your love into that person. You that is not something you should do, because then you're saying that that person defines your happiness because you put all your love in there. Don't have to. It's not quantity of your love, it's the quality of your love. So you can give them that much. Now, if you meet a toxic person in your life, they're empty of any love, and they will drain your bank account. They're in the red. They're empty. They're in deficit. Toxic people need love. Like, Amy Winehouse needs crack. They need a lot of love. They need a lot of love because they have none. They're devoid, and they will drain everything out of you. I'll give you an example. So this is you. You're a healthy person, and you have hopefully a healthy relationship with someone. They've got love in there a bit, and there's nothing wrong with giving them a little bit of love. But you've got to keep the majority of yourself, because if something happens, even if they're your kids or everything like that, don't give them everything, because you need to be the sole provider of love. So you need to have a lot of that. Like I said, in the bank of love, right? But if you meet a toxic person, what happens when you start mixing with them? Oh dear, when they give you a bit of their love, it will take a long time for that to clear. Months? No. Years. So bear that in mind. Be very careful of who you allow toxic people into your life. And their actions, you don't want them to define your emotions. But what the most important thing about who I am is, again, being able to handle and control your emotions. Once you do that, you become this, the supernova. Thank you very much. Please like and subscribe, and hopefully I'll be seeing you soon.